You know what is genuinely strange? Some of the most perceptive, emotionally aware people you will ever meet in your life did not develop those abilities through books, formal education, or years of dedicated practice. They developed them because, at some point, they simply had no other choice. Their nervous system was shaped not by intention, but by circumstances that required them to read rooms before entering them, anticipate moods before they shifted, and think several steps ahead just to feel safe in their own home. Psychologists have started calling this traumatic intelligence. And if you have never heard that term before, that is precisely why this video exists. Here is the psychological foundation. Trauma does not only wound people. In many documented cases, it also sharpens them in ways that are measurable and real. Research in developmental psychology suggests that children who grow up in unpredictable or emotionally volatile environments often develop a heightened sensitivity to social cues, emotional undercurrents, and nonverbal communication that most people never develop at all. Their brains, specifically the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, become wired early to detect subtle signals that the average person walks right past. The result is a form of intelligence that appears almost invisible from the outside, but runs extraordinarily deep on the inside. The first sign is that you can read a room before a single word has been spoken. You walk into a space and something shifts inside you immediately. A quiet alertness activates. You pick up on tension in someone's posture, a micro-expression that crosses the face for less than a second, an energy that has changed since the last time you were in this room. This is not intuition in any mystical sense. It is pattern recognition developed through necessity. Your brain was trained from an early age to scan every environment for emotional information because at some critical point in your life, that scanning was the thing that kept you safe. The second sign is that you are deeply attuned to other people's needs, sometimes long before they are aware of those needs themselves. You notice when someone is struggling, even when they insist they are fine. You sense the shift in someone's emotional state before they have had a chance to consciously process it. Psychologists refer to this as hyperempathy, and it most commonly develops in people who grew up needing to closely track the emotional states of caregivers or family members. You learn to feel what others feel, because your early environment made that skill essential to your daily survival. Third, you are an exceptional problem solver, particularly when pressure is at its highest. When things collapse around you, something inside you becomes calm and strategic rather than panicked. You do not freeze, you adapt, and you do it quickly. This is the nervous system doing something genuinely fascinating. Individuals who experienced early adversity often develop what researchers describe as stress inoculation, meaning their brains are better calibrated to manage high-stakes situations because high-stakes situations were simply their version of ordinary life. Crisis is familiar territory for a mind like yours. The fourth sign is that you think deeply about human behavior almost compulsively, and without being able to stop. You analyze why people do what they do. You replay conversations looking for meaning that was not obvious in the moment. You search for the logic beneath actions that other people do not even register as worth examining. This depth of psychological thinking was not something you chose. It was forged by years of attempting to understand the unpredictable behavior of people whose moods directly affected your sense of safety. You became a serious student of human nature because understanding people was not a hobby. It felt essential to your survival. The sixth sign is a highly developed and almost automatic sense of self-reliance. You do not wait for people to arrive and rescue you. You build solutions independently and quietly, and usually before anyone around you has even identified the problem. This self-sufficiency often genuinely surprises the people who know you, but it makes complete developmental sense. When the environment in childhood was not reliably supportive, the brain learned to internalize resourcefulness as a core operating principle. Dependence felt dangerous, so competence became the only acceptable default. Seventh, you feel things more intensely than most of the people around you appear to. Music moves you in ways that are difficult to articulate. Injustice lands in your body, not just your mind. A small act of unexpected kindness from a complete stranger can genuinely affect you for hours. This emotional depth is one of the most consistent hallmarks of traumatic intelligence. The amygdala becomes highly sensitized through repeated emotional activation in early life. The result is a person who does not simply observe the world from a comfortable distance. They experience it at a frequency and a depth that most people around them simply do not have access to. The eighth sign is that you find trust genuinely difficult, but when you do finally extend the connection formed is unusually profound. Your threshold for trust is simply higher than average, and that is not a character flaw. Cognitive psychologists call this adaptive skepticism. Your brain learned early in life that signals of safety were not always genuine, so it constructed careful filters. Those filters, while sometimes isolating, also mean that the relationships you do allow to form tend to be honest, deeply meaningful, and far more resilient than what most people experience. Ninth, you have a complicated and often conflicted relationship with rest and stillness. Slowing down can feel genuinely uncomfortable, almost unsafe at a level that is difficult to explain to others. When things go quiet, the mind tends to turn inward and not always gently. This is the nervous system continuing to do what it was conditioned to do across years of necessary vigilance. The irony is that the very intelligence trauma built requires deliberate and sustained effort to allow to unwind. Learning to rest when you carry traumatic intelligence is itself a profound act of reclaiming. It is telling your own brain that the emergency has finally passed. And the 10th sign, perhaps the most defining one of all, is that you carry a quiet but completely unshakable sense that your life must mean something. You do not move through your days casually or without attention. You look directly at pain, your own and others, and something deep inside you has consistently refused to allow that pain to be without meaning or purpose. Research on post-traumatic growth studied extensively by psychologists Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun suggests that a significant portion of people who navigate real adversity emerge on the other side with a deeper philosophical clarity about what genuinely matters and why. You are in many meaningful ways someone who learned wisdom earlier than most people ever will. Here is what deserves a moment of honest reflection. Traumatic intelligence is not something to celebrate at the expense of acknowledging the real difficulty that created it. The sharpness was genuine, but so was the cost. What psychology invites us to understand is that the human brain is not simply broken by hardship. It is also in very specific and measurable ways fundamentally transformed by it. The perceptiveness you carry, the empathy you extend, the way your mind moves through the world with a depth and a precision that most people around you cannot quite explain. None of that is coincidence. All of it is the architecture of a mind that had no choice but to grow quickly and did exactly that. The question now is not how you arrived here. The question is what you choose to build with the intelligence you earn along the way. If this resonated with something real in you, leave a quiet comment below. Subscribe to InnerFeels for more videos that finally give language to the kind of intelligence the world rarely stops to recognize.